Hello, everyone. We are so glad that you're with us today. And we have two amazing guests with us today. We have Maria Quattrone. She's an entrepreneur, a real estate expert, a visionary, a speaker, a philanthropist, and owner and CEO of Maria Quattrone and Associates and Remax at Home. And we also have Gino Barbaro, and he's an entrepreneur. He has grown his real estate portfolio to over 2,000 multifamily units and 250 million in assets under management. So we've got a big treat for you today. We're going to be talking about how to get leads with video, how to fix your mindset, and my favorite topic, delegation. So, welcome, you guys. Let's first start with talking about how to get leads with video. So, Maria, we'll start with you. Tell us exactly what you've done to be able to get so many leads from video.
Awesome. So thanks for having me, Chantal. Look forward to this episode with you all. And I started a podcast called Be the Solution in April of 2020, April 1st, during COVID. And so Be the Solution is all about what you are doing to be the solution in your business, whether that is in real estate, mortgage, scooping ice cream, or owning 2,000 properties. So whatever it is. And one of the ways that we've been able to use that podcast is through referrals. So getting referrals from other people in the industry, listings, buyers, opportunities through investors and developers by also interviewing them on the show to represent them for their disposition of their asset, whether it be ground up new construction, multifamily conversion, or just vacant land and shells and all kinds of opportunities. So that's one of the ways. Another way is that the video that I do is live every day on StreamYard. So I go live. I've been going live since June 18th of last year. So I have, almost 400 videos every day for the last 400 days. And
See that consistency. And I saw your podcast and you have over 200 episodes. And one of the things that I heard is that less than I can't remember if this is right, but it's something like less than 4% of all podcasts have more than 8 episodes. So what happens is people are like, I'm going to do a podcast. I'm going to do a podcast. So they get to number 8 and then they're like, this is too much work. And then they just quit. So for you to have over 200, that means you are in like the 4 percentile of people who've actually started a podcast. So you told me that you do StreamYard and then you take your content and distribute it to different places. And I think that's a really big deal. So talk about exactly how you take content and then can repurpose it for Facebook and Pinterest and, Instagram and all of
absolutely.
them.
So on StreamYard, you have the choice when you have an upgraded account to where you would like to broadcast to. So we currently broadcast to YouTube, LinkedIn, a couple different Facebook accounts, and Twitter or X, I guess X. And so after that's done, then the team will take that and they they were taking the video, putting it into MailChimp, optimizing it properly. And we do this for the podcast as well as the live videos. And then that gets distributed through MailChimp to all the people in our database, which is just under 50,000 right now. And in addition to that, what we started to do is to transcribe the video into text and then take that text and send the text via MailChimp instead of the video. Because what we found is that people are consuming more information just in text recently than actually being able to click on the video, watch the video, So we've tried this, and what's really interesting, this is new that I've been doing. It's only like a week old. I've sent 3 out via text through MailChimp. So instead of the video going, it's the transcription. And I've had literally people respond, and they're not, the ones that went out are not about real estate. The one is that one of them is called Growth is Invisible. Sometimes growth is invisible. And that one got a lot of responses. Another one that went out yesterday is called Nobody Has It All Figured Out. And that one also got a good amount of responses. And these are people that it could be, anybody's in tech. So agents, investors, clients, well, I hate saying leads, but people that are in there that haven't bought, sold, or invested in anything with us. So, 50,000, isn't a huge database, but it's pretty big. We could never call 50,000 people. So, it's a good size for us. And so that's one of the ways that we use video. We also take the podcast and we create quote cards from it. We create the I can't think of what the name is at the moment, but the screen, the thumbnail sketch, and then we distribute that podcast on Buzzsprout. That's where it gets distributed through Buzzsprout, and then that goes to all the channels. And then we take that podcast and we send it to our guests, and we give them all the assets so that they can also promote it. It's also use it for the website, and then it gets transcribed. The other thing that I did with all these videos, it's actually, they're on 100, they've done 150 transcriptions so far. We're transcribing them. And then I'm taking, these are all videos that I did. They're all the stuff that's in my head. And then I'm taking that, repurposing it into a book. Oh, the other thing I want to mention is that because I've done so many videos, and these are not using a teleprompter, everything is organic, and it's coming directly from information that I have studied, or just, sometimes I think we take for granted being in the business so long. There's so much information we know, we make it look like not a lot of information, but there's so much. But what happened is, because I've done so many of these, I have really learned how to be better on video, speak better, listen better when I'm interviewing the guest on the podcast, which we're doing a podcast right now, Chantel, I'm sure. And Gino, you all have gotten really good at listening, because if we're not listening, we can't ask the next question. And a lot of times, especially when you're with agents or when you're with clients, everybody's thinking of what they want to say next instead of actually listening to what's being said. We always have like that next thing that we want to say to that client. They're trying to explain something and we're thinking about, let's schedule photos. I'm just using it as an example, but it gives you much more insight into people.
I love what you just said, and I want people to type that right now in the chat, because you can use what you just said is number one, consistently every single day, you're doing a live stream. You're just teaching people, you're taking the knowledge you already have, you're educating other people, you're using StreamYard, and that allows you to multi-stream, meaning you can take it to multi-platforms all at the same time. You're not having to put it on Twitter and LinkedIn and all these other places. You're multi-streaming and you're consistently doing that every day. I love that. So, Gino, talk a little bit about what you're doing to get leads through video right now.
I like Maria's answer a lot. It was really in depth what she's been doing with the content. For Jake and myself, we started our first podcast back in October of 2016. We currently have over 5 million downloads. So I think it's something that we started out, and everyone on the call right now, I think you need to understand that you are your own brand. What does your brand represent? What do you want people to feel when they interact with you? It's great to get on video and start creating content like Jake and I did, but we had no understanding of why we were doing this podcast. I mean, have an understanding of why you're creating content. Who are you creating the content for? What's the messaging that you want to send out? For Jake and myself, it was very simple. We were trying to teach people how to buy apartments, but it has to get deeper than that. And Maria was talking about getting good on video. It's all about storytelling. It's all about connecting with that person on the other side, being transparent, being vulnerable. I think that's really, really important in today's day and age. You need to be educational and give them the information, but you also need to be entertaining as well. We started out with one podcast. It was the Jake and Gino show. Then from there, we went to a simple how-to. And if you're on this as a realtor, how to, for me in multifamily, how to buy your next apartment, how to raise $50,000, how to use seller financing. That's a great little niche where you can go out every day and create 5 or 7 or 10 minutes of that and speak specifically to the persona, to the person that you're trying to acquire as what you're calling a lead or a prospect. The next show we ended up doing was what we call the Movers and Shakers podcast. I've interviewed over 160 of our students who have closed deals. Maybe you as a realtor start going out there and getting testimonials, or start doing little videos with a person who you've helped buy a home, and just say, what was the prospect? What was that like for you? And once you start sharing that story, people start connecting with you. And it's all about connections today, right? There's so much noise out there. But once people start listening to you through these mediums and through listening to you through the video, because video is really powerful. And I love video. And for me, it's one of those legacy pieces. I've got a bunch of kids. I want to see my kids sharing this video down the road 10 or 15 years. But before you start getting on and start just shooting video, understand what you want your brand to represent. My brand, I want it to feel like it's a family brand. It's an entrepreneurial brand. It's a brand that shares. It's a brand that's out there and trying to educate people. So that's the first and foremost thing that you need to do with video.
I want you to expand on the how-to part, because I think, to me, that is where real estate agents are missing the boat. Like, for example, if you wanted to say how to buy a rental property using and leveraging the 1% rule, and then something like that would be a wonderful little clip that you could do. Like, Maria said, you could make that live, you can put it in a podcast, I just love even the title of that podcast, and just getting these agents in the mindset of like, I'm going to teach you how to, and then fill in the blank, whatever people ask you. So I want to just kind of, for residential real estate, I know you do a lot in multifamily, but think of some things that would also apply with residential that we could do for how to. And I'll start with you, Gina, and then move to Maria.
That is a great question. I would actually go out to any of your home buyers and ask them their pain points. I know when I bought a home, how to find an inspector. I didn't know how to find the property inspector, how to find,
or how to choose the right home inspector.
Exactly. But your attorney. And then for realtors you need to understand that when I'm buying a home, I may be new in the area. I don't have an electrician. I don't have a plumber. I don't have any of these tradesmen. How are you going to bring value to that person? So when you're thinking from that perspective, adding value to the person buying the home, what pain points does that person have? You can talk about mortgages. Some people are trying to get a loan for the very first time, and you can go down that route as well, financing. So understanding where that pain point is, and then trying to speak specifically to that pain point. Now, as a residential broker, who are you working with? Are you working with first-time home buyers, or are you working with people buying homes in the $1 million to $2 million to $3 million? Different how-tos, different pain points. So you have to understand who you're trying to target. And one thing I'll say is, if you're trying to speak to everybody, you're going to be speaking to nobody. So plant your flag on the person that you want to speak to and create content for that person.
So I love that. And I think what you just said about the getting the other people involved, like you can have them help pay for, hiring a video person, right? And getting them to do all these clips. Like I would talk to, you could get the plumber, your favorite plumber, and say, look, I will split the cost of this video with you, or you pay for the video and I'll coordinate it. It's going to cost $250 and I'm going to promote you. And we're going to ask you all kinds of questions about this, this, and this, or we're going to ask title questions, get your title company involved. So Maria, what are some of the best how-tos as an agent that you've done that have really resonated and been able to generate leads with?
As an agent to consumers or as an
Yes,
agent
as an
to
agent, like,
agents?
no, as an agent to get consumers to feed that content and then turn into a lead.
As a how-to? Hmm. Gosh, there's so many. I wish I had the list in front of me.
Just give us one. Just give us one.
Okay. I would say like how to buy um investment property is a good one.
Hmm.
You know, how to do a fix and flip. Um, you know, how you choose the property, how you analyze the property. I always say I do napkin math. If it doesn't work on a napkin, skip, go to the next one.
That's
Um,
good.
you know, how to sell your house for the most money, all of the tools and all of the elements of that. It's really interesting. I actually specialize in expired listings um, on my team, and I can't believe how many of them I actually list and sell within weeks. It's pretty crazy um, how they've been on the market with somebody for 3 months, 6 months, a year, and sell. And I just listed two of them, just went on the market a couple of days ago, and they both have 9 showings, and the people had nothing before and were getting offers on both of them. It's amazing. So I do a lot of content for real estate agents. I believe in contribution and giving back to our real estate community. I'm, you know, always on the move, extremely busy. I'll probably sell about 200 listings this year. And that's myself, not my team. And I have a system and a process around it. And it's a little bit of a rigid one. So I'm not for
I love
everybody,
it.
but transparency and integrity and work ethic. Um, you know, the biggest thing also is telling people the truth and actually caring and not worrying about the outcome of whatever it is that we're doing, but worrying about the process of what it is that we're doing and
I love it.
focusing on the process.
I want to switch gears. My book just came out, the How to Delegate Everything But Sex. This is my number one passion. I'm all about delegating. And I think a lot of people are like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. So, Gina, let's start with you. And I love what you had told me right before we started the show. Talk about I'm a guy and I'm going to do this and do that, and how you've started delegating and the process of how to continue adding new people to your team.
So, Chantel, I don't think there's any right or wrong answer for anybody listening to this because we've been, I think, brainwashed by the internet and Instagram to say that we need to scale to the moon. And for some of us out there, it's great. For some of us, it doesn't work. I was raised by Italian parents. We had one restaurant for literally almost 20 years, and scaling was not in the process. I learned the I'm a mentality. Like I said, I'm going to do this. I'm gonna do that. And Amma got burned out. After being in the kitchen for 20 years, I decided I needed a break. And I found my business partner, Jake, and we started investing in apartments. And within 5 years, owning 1,000 apartments, it's just completely different process than owning one restaurant for over 20 years. Some of the things that you need to do when you're starting to scale, I think you need to become crystal clear on why you're scaling. I think you cannot outgrow your infrastructure. I think I've seen a lot of people, especially in my industry, decide to keep buying the next deal and buying the next deal and not understanding what their infrastructure looks like. We have property managers. If we keep buying deals, we need to hire property managers because we're vertically integrated. So understanding that you need to learn how to delegate, but for us, it was a slow process early on. We needed to get coached on this. We went out, we started hiring companies like Traction, Gino Wickman's process. We hired a company called Scaling Up by Vern Harnish. Another book that I would recommend is Small Giants by Bo Burlingham. Phenomenal book. I mean, I didn't want to be the Facebook of multifamily. I was really happy buying 200 to 300 units a year. Understanding why you're growing and why you're delegating is important. And for me, there's certain jobs that maybe I should delegate, but you know what? I love to do them. So is it right for me to delegate? If I love to cut the grass and I love to get out there and do it, but I can delegate it to somebody. Should I? I don't know. I don't know
I
if I
actually
should.
talk about that in my book. Okay, I'm gonna push back on you. And this is exactly, I had this
Push,
conversation with a
push.
guy, and he said to me, he's like, "Well, I said, do you still cut the grass?" He said, "Yes." And he's like, "But I actually enjoy cutting the grass." And I said, "Okay, well, come cut mine then." And he goes, "I don't like it that much." I said, "Then you shouldn't be doing it."
That's a
See what I'm
different
saying?
story. I
That is
agree. Yes.
exactly what I
Yes.
wrote in my book, because
Yes.
when you can get caught up in that nonsense. Well, I don't mind doing this and I don't
Yes.
mind doing this. And then you're doing all these things. And
Yes.
so I'm pushing back saying, no, you need to delegate that. If you wouldn't be
Yes.
willing to cut my grass as well and you didn't love it that much, if you said, yes, I love it so much, it energizes me. I mean, it fills my bucket, then I'd say, fine, go ahead and do it. But I
Yes.
think when I push back on people, they actually go, you're right, I need to delegate that.
Yes. I can agree with that. There are some things. We just bought a farm, so 5.5 acres. Is it makes sense for me to go out there and cut the grass? No, I've got somebody cutting the grass, but there's something to you going out there on a weekend and sweating and getting away from the computer and being all alone. And there's something to that. I don't want to delegate some of those responsibilities, but if anybody's out here starting to want to delegate and you're saying to yourself, man, I think I need to hire a bookkeeper. You're probably past hiring the bookkeeper. You should have already hired the bookkeeper. If you don't have an executive assistant or an assistant and you're trying to scale a company, that's probably the very first hire that you should have. And I held off for years because I was Mr. El Cheapo. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Once I was able to have that assistant book my podcasts, get me on more shows, take care of a lot of the scheduling, all of that came off my plate. That's something that I don't want to do at all. I hate that. I have no energy or no passion for that. But I think the thing that most of us entrepreneurs need to focus on is revenue generating tasks. Those are things that you really should take in the house. And that's probably one of the last things that you need to delegate, something that you need to control. If you're multifamily and you're looking for deals, two things that really are hard to delegate is looking for deals and looking for capital. Although you can, but those are two real big responsibilities that you need to take care of.
Maria, talk about some things that you have delegated and you're super glad that you have delegated.
I do my best to delegate pretty much as humanly possible. However, I do not delegate the sellers. So I used to delegate them a little bit more in the process. And what I found is when they're calling directly for me, even if somebody else on the team can handle that, having conversation with me up front has been much more beneficial than passing that client off to somebody else.
And I'll push back on you a little bit on that. And I would say what you could start to do. And so, like, I don't work with buyers and sellers anymore. I haven't for 20 years. But what I would say is that the first step that you could do is, so like, you could say, okay, for me, it was like, I'll stop taking all the sellers that are I'm only going to do sellers in Virginia Beach. I'm not going to do Chesapeake and Hampton and all these other areas. So I'm just going to take this. And then you just keep scaling back. And then you could say, okay, I'm only going to take sellers that are over 800,000 or over 1 million or over 2 million
Yes.
and start doing that.
I did all that. And then with the change in the market, years ago, last year, I decided to go back all in on being not the first point of contact, but having a conversation. Even if after I have the conversation, I delegate it to somebody else. Yes. I feel like there is something about having a conversation with me versus anybody else.
I like that. I like that
a lot. For years, I had just delegated a lot of it, and I look back and we lost business. We lost some business, and more than I would have liked. And so, there's a fine line of it. And people are pretty impressed when they have the opportunity, to talk with me. And then I could say, okay, Miss Tanya now is going to come see you. or whatever. And sometimes I go out there myself and just go get the paperwork signed. Some people, are old school, and we have a lot of older clients. Like we sell, we have we sell to the masses at my company. So, and a lot of people want to specialize in luxury listings and all this stuff. That's great, but there's not a ton of them in Philadelphia. The average price point being in the high 300 range, but our practice is to sell to the masses.
I want to tell you, one of the reasons why I joined and I just love Canzel is that I can get 100% commission, I get revenue share, and I get stock. I am making thousands of dollars every single month in revenue share and stocks. And I now don't have to work nights and weekends on real estate anymore. I've actually never been to a real estate agent's retirement party, and I want to be the first one that people are coming to at a young age. And I want to share with you some of my favorite resources. So if you go to joincanzel.com/free, there's a couple that I want you to download. One is a 20 free lead generating PDF. It's going to help you generate leads for free that you can download, as well as there's one on how to double your business. I don't want you to miss it. Go download it today. joincanzel.com/free.
Yeah. So we have something that we've created called delegatemystuff.com, where we help people to hire virtual assistants and hire administrative assistants. So Gino, talk about what you've done with your executive assistant and some of the video people and some of the things that you have done a good job of outsourcing.
We've worked with a company called Scale Virtually. Great company. Guy's name is Sean. He works specifically with real estate agents. So with us, we've done virtual staging. So you take an apartment, there's no furniture in it, you virtually stage it. It's phenomenal. You get it online. It costs like $10 for pictures. That is an amazing marketing tool because that picture is going up online. We're using virtual assistants for bookkeepers. A lot of the general ledger stuff, the stuff where we do weekly reports, where virtual assistants can use that as well. Phenomenal way to do that. Other ways we've been using virtual assistants, we've been using virtual assistants for our editing process, virtual assistants to pull out our shorts, to repost them on Instagram, editing the podcast. I mean, to edit a podcast, I remember years and years ago, it would take us 2 hours to edit a podcast and we sucked at it. And that's truly something that you should delegate. That's taking the soul out of your life. So I'm absolutely using that as well. We're using that. But I mean, you can use virtual assistants in the property management business as well. There's third-party property managers that are out there that you can use virtual assistants to help you with lead generation, with looking at emails at the end of day, with going on there and helping you create budgets. The sky's the limit with using virtual assistants in real estate now.
We have virtual assistants in the Philippines. I have 3 of them, and one of them, she focuses on all the listing activities, prepping files for us, putting everything into the MLS. We virtually stage every single property that is vacant. Some cases, ones that aren't vacant, we redo those as well virtually. We have pink and red walls. They don't look too well in pictures. But they edit all the podcasts, and they do all the things I was telling you about. They do that. So
yeah. It's amazing what you can get people to do as a virtual assistant for $4 an hour. We can help you find that person. If you go to Delegate My Stuff, you can either do it hourly or we can help you find a full-time person.
Awesome.
So we're out of time, but I want to end with mindset. So give us kind of your closing remarks. A lot of people are just a little bit in the dumps right now, just feeling like the market isn't where they want it to be. Their business is down this year. What are some mindset things, Gino, that you can kind of encourage them and what they need to read or listen to get their mindset back on track? And I will say this, that we have one amazing broker. Her name's Deborah Myers, and she was kind of looking to recruit some agents and attract agents to the company. And then she was a little bit in a rut. And then all of a sudden, I'm not sure what she did, but she just literally, I think she's brought under her downline. Like every time I turn around, it's 20 people in her downline in the last couple of weeks. And it was a complete shift. So talk about what can you do when you're kind of in a rut, and then all of a sudden you get yourself, boom, you're just flying after it. So Gino, let's start with you.
I would give 2 points. I think the first one is I'm a big Jim Rome fan, and Jim Rome's famous for saying, "Surround yourself with those 5 people, and those 5 people will really dictate where you're going and what you're focusing on." For me, when I met my business partner Jake, it was game on for me. I needed that. I mean, if you're down in the dumps right now, maybe you join a mastermind group. Maybe you go out and you find other people to surround yourself with. And for me, I was fortunate to find him. I was stuck in the restaurant with people that I didn't want to be around. And where was my mindset? My mindset was on survival. See who you're surrounding yourself with. And the second thing I'd say is read the book Mindset by Carol Dweck. And I love the book because it really talks about 2 types of mindsets, the fixed mindset and the growth mindset. And for some of us, we have both in our lives. We may be great at business, but we may be terrible as parents. We may be great at getting together and building something, and we've just maybe fixed to something else. Understanding that when you have a fixed mindset on something, it's as if, and I'll give you a perfect example in the book. He talks about John McEnroe. Everyone thinks John McEnroe was this amazing tennis star, and he was, but he did have a fixed mindset because he was always blaming something. It was whether there was the racket, or it was the noise, or it was the sawdust, or he was sick. That's really the fixed mindset. There's the excuse. And then you have the growth mindset, which is, let's take Michael Jordan, for instance. I mean, look at his mindset. The guy quit at the peak of his career to go play baseball because he needed to be challenged, right? Everyone thought he was a failure because he failed at baseball. When I'm saying to myself, this guy left at the peak of his career. He needed another challenge. He needed to continue to grow, because if you aren't growing, you're regressing. So the book really talks about differences between fixed and growth mindset, and understanding that when you are in a fixed mindset, there's no responsibility. You're blaming a lot of other people, when you can just step back and say to yourself, what do I need to do to get better? How can I adopt that growth mindset? It's not about always winning or losing. It's about trying to see the opportunities out of the problems. And right now, high interest rates are a problem, but there is an opportunity out there. For us in the multifamily space, there's less buyers out there. There's less capital being raised. If it's high interest rates are for me, that means there's high interest rates for that person as well. So always go out there with that growth mindset, seeing what the problems are, but trying to view there's opportunities that come out of those problems.
I love that. And I'll expand on that. I have a friend of mine. She always says this. Whenever you ask her something, she always points fingers like this. She's like, the people who are in a growth mindset, they take their thumbs and they point it back to themselves. And they go, what do I need to do to fix this problem? She's like, the people who are in a fixed mindset, this is what they do. They just take their fingers and they're like, pointing and blaming this one and blaming this one, and it's your fault and you're the reason why I'm not succeeding, or the company, or this, or constantly pointing the finger instead of going back and going, wait a minute, am I making 40 phone calls a day? Am I reaching out to 40 people every day? Am I like blaming the market, blaming this? It's like there's tons of people who are succeeding right now. So the only thing that will make it better is if I take my thumbs and go, I'm the one to blame here. I'm not doing this, 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 and this. Maria, what would you give us your closing thoughts on mindset?
Okay. So, number one, be the solution. We are our own solution, and we all have the power to change our lives. Sometimes we just need some perspective. And when we get perspective, for example, I say things all the time like this in our office with our agent, said, what about what else you could do? You chose this career in real estate. You chose to be in this. You'd be digging ditches. You'd be in the Ukraine, people shooting. You could be in a third world country where there's no water. You have to think about sometimes things that are so far abstract from where you are to really gain perspective on the opportunity that's in front of you. Because my belief is that in America, the streets are paved with gold. There is opportunity everywhere you look. If you choose to be open to it and you choose to have your heart open, and if you lead in contribution, number two, be in contribution, because I don't care where you are in your business, whatever level, it doesn't matter. You can help somebody else who's doing less than you or needs help. You know, they say this when people go to get sober. They'll say to people, they're like, yeah, they're, you know, some people, they're a disaster, they're down in the dumps. And they say, well, yeah, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. Go help somebody else. Go help somebody else. Go help you.
And you'll come up with the ideas, even other agents, like another agent that's not doing well. You're giving them advice and then you go, oh crap, I should be doing it myself.
Other agents, because here's the thing, no matter where you are in your career, right? You're a year in, you're 2 in, 3 in, 5 in, 10 in, 20 in. There's somebody else who you went through what they're going through right now. And you can help them. And so we have to be the solution through perspective and through contribution. And with those, if you can't change your mindset with that,
just take a nap.
I don't know. Got to go back and look at the mirror and look real hard.
Oh my gosh.
Right? Where there's a will, there's a way. This is a book I'm reading right now, The Motivation Manifesto with Brandon. It's very good. Highly recommend the book. It was $19.99 on Amazon. So $20. Probably can read it online, but I like books. And I am an avid reader. Sometimes though too, with mindset, you need to step away for a minute. Take a deep breath. Step away for a day. Step away, do something not related to work. This is
take a day of rest.
See, here's the thing, and I've been thinking about this. This is our life. This is our life. And what do you want for it? And what are you willing to do or not do? And get crystal clear on that. And then go ahead and do it or not. But draw a line in the sand. Because with all the changes that are coming down, you better draw a line in the sand.
So good.
You better make some decisions soon.
Awesome. Well, this has been wonderful.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a rating and a review so we can get this out to more agents. And tune in next week for another power-packed episode. This is the Millionaire Real Estate Podcast.